welcome to the class. In this I'm going to do some basic concepts of induced and autonomous. So just go through it. What does the word induced means and what does the word autonomous means? So autonomous and induced. So the word autonomous means independent of the change in some specified factor. In the theory of income determination that we are doing right now, the specified factor is national income. So any variable that is not affected by change in income is treated as autonomous variable. For example, let's take any consumption that is not affected by change in income is autonomous consumption. So another example, any expenditure, say investment expenditure, which is not affected by change in income, is known as autonomous investment. So basically this is what we are going to do. In consumption and in investment, we'll have these two terms as induced and autonomous. So right now I want you to go through, let's do autonomous consumption and induced consumption. What is this? So when you're talking about consumption, generally when we are talking about this, we are talking about autonomous consumption and induced consumption. In fact, total consumption is made up of C dash plus B into Y. That is, it does talk about autonomous consumption plus induced consumption. So we'll do the formula later on, but just let's see the difference between these two words, autonomous consumption and induced consumption. So if you take the meaning, it is autonomous consumption is the minimum level of consumption necessary for survival, which means even at zero level of income, there is some consumption. Now, what is induced consumption? It refers to the consumption which is related to income. It is equal to total consumption minus autonomous consumption. So that is induced consumption. And see, autonomous consumption is independent of anything, independent of national income. Whereas when you're talking about induced consumption, it depends upon the level of national income. So the symbol C dash is used to denote autonomous consumption, and the induced consumption is denoted by the symbol B into Y. Now what is B? B is the marginal propensity to consume. So what does that mean? That means change in consumption divided by change in income. The ratio of change in consumption to a change in income. That is change in national income. So having talked about this, what we can talk is like what are the main properties of Keynesian consumption function. So talking about that, so what are the main functions? So talking about the main functions, the level of consumption varies directly with increase in income. So we can see that. And the second property of Keynesian consumption function is that increase in consumption is less than increase in income. And then another thing based on this is that the average propensity to consume declines as the level of income increases. So this is what we are talking about, the difference between autonomous consumption and induced consumption. Having said that, now if we just take, which is not really, let's take investment. All right, so let's talk about investment. So even in this, we have what is known as induced investment and autonomous investment. So if you've understood the terms autonomous, that means it's not affected by any variable. So in this case, when the expenditure and investment is not affected by national income, which means it is autonomous investment. and that can be shown with this parallel investment curve to the x-axis, which means whatever the level of national income, the investment as is decided by the government remains unchanged. So talking about the government investment, it goes like that. But if you're talking about the investment otherwise, yes, when it changes according to the income, national income, then that is known as induced investment. So this is what is, these are the terms that we've just learned: autonomous and what? Autonomous and autonomous investment, autonomous consumption, and induced consumption and induced investment. So you can get a question as what do you mean by induced consumption, or what do you mean by autonomous consumption? So when at zero level of income there is some consumption, it is known as autonomous consumption. So, and total consumption is made up of these two. It is made up of the autonomous consumption as well as induced consumption. And we will be doing, I'll do a small numerical to show you, but I'm going to do it in the next class.